crops is really what it sounds like. They are crops that love the cold weather or like the cold weather. And that means, temperatures that are not much above 65 or 70 degrees and not temperatures that are really extremely cold. But keep in mind, certain cold crops, like cabbage, can take lower temperatures, maybe as low as 20 degrees, some cases just a little bit lower than that. But when you're dealing with things like broccoli, they really don't like severe frost, so you're looking at more like 28 degrees. So when you're thinking of planting these things in February or March, you're out looking for the liners. Where can I find a plant of this? Well, sometimes it's hard to find, so you've got to start them indoors. So we'll talk about that in a minute on starting your own plants yourself, especially if you're looking for some of these unusual varieties. Now, you might ask, why am I going to grow my own cold crops outdoors? Well, there's a real reason. You have a longer time that you can pick your cold crops. So if you're growing your own broccoli, you don't have to rely on a store having a certain type that you like. Additionally, if you really love sweet peas, peas have to be started early. And there's nothing better than going out in your garden and picking your peas and tasting those really sweet, delicious peas. And you can pick up every day out of your garden. Now let's look at some of the things that you might need to start your plants indoors. I mentioned it might be really hard to find transplants, so you might want to start some of your own seedlings indoors, sometime in February, could be March, might even be later yet if you're going to do tomatoes, but a transplant or liner or seedling looks something like this, and you can easily just grow as many as you want yourself indoors. Now, I don't recommend growing too many of each. Only grow 6 to 12 of each. That's all you're ever going to eat. But you need a fluorescent light, and they're very inexpensive. It's, garage light, shop light, and they give great light for your plants. You want about maybe 10 to 14 hours of light, and maybe even 12 to 14 hours of light every day. To accomplish that, all you need is one of these timers that comes on and off, on and off, on and off. Now, normally when you're growing your own seedlings indoors, so you can plant them outdoors when the temperature is correct, it's going to take anywhere from 2 to maybe 6 weeks to get a plant that's ready to be put outdoors. Now, I mentioned cabbage. Cabbage you can plant out earlier. You can plant cabbage out in February, or depending on where you live, if really temperatures don't get much below 20 degrees, some of them can take 15 degrees. Broccoli you're going to plant a little later. But you're going to want to start these things in February. Real easy. You just need a tray like this. These are inexpensive. And you just need what is called a seed starter mix. You don't really want a potting soil or a potting mix or just what they call topsoil. It's a seed starter mix, and all you do is come in here and fill your tray completely across. Don't pack it down too tight. Moisten the soil a little bit. Put maybe 1 or 2 seeds per each of these spaces. Again, you only want 1 or 2 of these. Come into like 4 different separate containers. So you really only want maybe 2 for one type of broccoli, 2 for another type of cabbage. Don't make the mistake I did. When I first planted broccoli, I planted like 100 broccoli plants. I had enough to feed the whole city. And it is important that when your little liners have grown, they might be a little tender, so it is. You have to really watch the temperature and make sure you don't put them out when it's too cold. Always read the label on the seed because it really gives you a lot of great information. Now, another thing you might need to do if you do start your own vegetables and you've planted them outdoors and you really get some of that frigid cold weather that's very unexpected, you can take what is known as a floating row cover like this and cover your vegetables that have been planted outdoors. Now, another thing, the system I showed you here is great for your basement or your garage. That's maybe 60 or 65 degrees. But if you ever heard the word sun box or cold frame, that is where you have an outdoor box. Could be against the house. It could also just be somewhere out, where it's close to walk to, and you can just use an incandescent light bulb, and you can keep that little grow box warm. Just make sure you vent it on hot days. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
For more garden tips, use the Internet to click on the In the Garden website. That's www.inthegardenradio.com.